Live from York, it's Ask an Engineer and the management team at RadioShack.
Wow! Yay!
Hi, everyone.
Hey, everybody. It's another wonderful Ask an Engineer here. Actually, engineers, because he's also an engineer.
Yep.
And
2 engineers.
Yeah,
You have 3
well,
engineers?
Yeah, I'm
That's
on.
right.
3 engineers.
I'm
wow.
odd man out.
But it's okay.
Yeah, I know.
We still love you.
Yeah.
We're broadcasting live from the Adafruit factory in downtown Manhattan. This is where we do all our design and manufacturing and shipping and production and QA and coding and tutorializing. So this is the mothership. But today we welcome our 2 friends from RadioShack.
Yeah, so introduce yourself, starting over there at the right.
Bobby Lavan, Chairman
Lavan.
of RadioShack.
Dane Rogers, CEO.
Okay, and where are you based out of right now?
Fort Worth,
Fort Worth? Okay.
Texas.
And New York City.
Gotcha.
Fort Worth.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been
Fort
to,
Worth is where it's at.
in Fort Worth, is it the historically known RadioShack headquarters? It's a beautiful location.
It
Okay.
is, yes. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I visited a long time ago. They used to have the concept store inside there where
That's
they would
right.
test out all the
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Lady Ada, we're going to do a different show tonight.
I know. Today it's
So-
it's a very special night. This
Yeah.
night is not like any other night.
Are you going to ask me what's on the show tonight?
What is on tonight's show?
Y'all are on the show.
I know.
Yeah. On tonight's show, the discount code is RadioShack. So use the code 10% off in the Adafruit store all the way up to 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It helps us because we don't do. We're not a venture-backed company. We sell electronic kits online. Thank you, everyone. That's what keeps the lights on here in the shows. We won't be doing really the show and tell. Maybe you can briefly
I can
go
briefly
over
review
it.
that. I wrote them down.
Yeah, we won't be going through all the ones that we did. I will say that next week we'll return with Mailbag, Help Wanted, Time Travel, Made in New York, Internet of Things, 3D printing, Pi News, a ton of new products, and of course we'll answer your question your engineering questions next week. But this week we're answering questions about RadioShack.
We're going to keep it like razor focused on the Razor RadioShack.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you want to go over the show and tell a bit?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. All right.
Pull up the thing. Thank you. As seen on the show and tell. Well, I think it was a really great show and tell. We had a lot of new people.
All right, go through it.
Okay, Scott from Chickadee Tech, who's been working on his stacking racing drones project, is working on a stacking SAMD21 board. So it's exciting. I love the SAMD21, great processor. He also has posted onto the jobs board. He's looking for some employment. You want to hire a really lovely software hardware engineer? He is available. Carter came by with a really cool 1980s RadioShack comic about learning electronics. It was like to get people excited about electronics, and I guess there are these students and they're in the comic and their teacher's showing them like, I don't know, like how to fight the Cold War with, I don't know exactly what was going on in there. It was definitely very space age type technology. Tuna built a really awesome 3D scanner using Little Bits and an Arduino Little Bits module and some 3D printed parts that the Little Bits module actually uses like a little servo to press the button on his phone, and it like takes a photo as it rotates around. So it gets a 3D, it uses those 3D photo apps that you do, you take like photos every 5 degrees and then it combines them into a model. Amos had a DIY Prusa 3D printer that he built using parts because he wanted to get into 3D printers, and he's building little robotics parts and BMW repair parts, and is working on using these parts to also make a laser, like what's it called? A UV laser printer with resin. So he wants to like up his game from like the deposition model to UV cured 3D printed. Drupal has a Indiegogo for the eVive. It's a DIY Arduino-based learning platform with an LCD, built-in oscilloscope, built-in power supply, built-in buttons, built-in potentiometers. It's kind of got everything you'd ever want. It's like the 5001 kit. So check out the eVive. It's on Indiegogo right now. Mia is learning all about conductive materials. She learned that it looked like there's some sort of like Play-Doh isn't conductive, and then bananas aren't conductive, but forks are conductive. So that's an important lesson to learn. And that's why you should not stick a fork in a socket. You shouldn't stick a banana in a socket either, because that's kind of gross, but it won't electrocute you. But definitely forks right out. So it's good learning stuff. Richard is going to go to the White House. Congratulations, Richard. He's joining a coalition of makers and hackers and activists who are going to go to the White House and talk about makerspaces.
All sorts of makerspaces and hackerspaces are going to the White House next week.
Yeah, watch out
Yeah.
for the waves. And he
Yeah.
also is working on his LARP hammer, the really awesome LARP hammer he showed a couple months ago that makes noises. And he's working on also escape room technology because he's hanging out. Well, he's like really doing a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So he showed electromagnetics with feather and Bluetooth, so you can like arm and disarm this trap door for an escape room. Still haven't done any of those escape rooms. You have to escape Adafruit first.
Yeah.
And then finally, C. Scott showed off the panel that he made for Comenius. The front panel is like 50 punch holes, and they all fit perfectly. So good work with that CAD drawing, C. Scott. And he showed some photos of his father's pharmacy on Google Earth, and his old pharmacy, the little one, 800 square feet, and then moved to a larger 11,000 square feet pharmacy. He talked about what he learned from his father about running a retail store, about running a pharmacy that his brother now runs, and it was really heartwarming. And he also had a really cool old school Forrest Mims book. So C. Scott, you don't know, he had a 555 timer that he bought from RadioShack. When did he buy it? In 1973?
Oh, really?
And it was one of the first 555 timers he built. It was NE555. And he used a Forrest Mims book to make like a LED blinking thing. And then he has a son now, and his son is, I think, turned 11 or 12. He reused that same 555 with his son to rebuild that same project. So he showed it off, and his young assistant showed off the project that he built. And you can see the date code, and it's like old stamp style, because it used to be stamped, like physically. I think someone actually stamped it, and it says like 73, so that's when he bought it. That was really cool.
Okay. All right, all participants on the show and tell get an As Seen on the Show and Tell sticker. Email support@adafruit.com if you were on the show. All right, programming note, show and tell Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time.
We just did that.
Ask an Engineer, which you're watching now. 8
We're doing that right
p.m.
now.
We're doing that right now.
Yes.
We'll talk about Desk of Lady Ada and Watch Tony D and more next week, but this week, it's all
Double
about,
your fun next week.
It's all about RadioShack. So thank you so much, Bobby and Dean, for coming by.
Pleasure.
We had met Bobby at the White House, and RadioShack is one of the things that we all grew up with. And I know RadioShack has been reintroduced a couple times to people in different parts of their life, and you're taking over RadioShack. This is RadioShack 2.0, whatever you want to call it, but a lot of people have questions about RadioShack, so we have some that we have right here. We got some from Reddit, so some will be about cats.
Memes.
Yeah.
Dank memes are coming.
And also Make Magazine, which RadioShack's worked with, and you were recently at Maker Faire, we'll ask about that. They had some questions on their site, and then Dave, who runs a popular electronics video series, EEV blog, he's from Australia. Wait, you have an accent. Are you from Australia?
I'm
You're from Australia too?
Yeah,
Okay.
I know Dave.
You do know
I
Dave.
don't.
Oh, okay.
That'd be great if you're like best friends.
I
They'd be
think
like,
everyone in
"That's
New Zealand
cool."
apparently knows everyone.
New
in
Zealand is very small.
Yeah,
Everyone knows
they do.
everyone.
I saw per capita, their Olympic medals is incredibly high.
Yeah.
Because they've won like quite a few, and there's not that many
Yeah,
people
yeah.
there. So
Yeah.
good work on New Zealand.
Thanks for being up for this, because we have CEOs of companies. Sometimes they'll come by, but RadioShack's been in the news, and I have a couple images and more from the past, but it definitely got Lamore and I into electronics. So I know you're the steward of this brand now, but I feel like I should still say thank you to being
Thank
part
you.
of something that
Yeah.
I think it's touched a lot of our lives. So you want to just dive in here?
Absolutely, let's do this
Okay.
thing.
So let's just cut to the chase here. Many people think RadioShack is no longer in business. What's been going on at RadioShack over the last year? Who wants to start?
Yeah. First, thanks for having us.
Oh,
You know,
thank
you. Hey, Bobby.
Love what you guys do. Love being in Soho in New York
Yeah.
City.
Yeah, this is a factory here.
This
That's
is,
weird. Did you ever
you know,
walk
it-
by this and be like, I wonder if there's a factory in there?
Yeah, there's also a club downstairs. Like
There was.
There
Yeah,
was.
there was.
Long
We
story.
weren't cool enough to get into the club. Definitely okay enough to get into.
But now you have the penthouse.
That's right.
Yeah.
So so Radio Shack, for the past 10 years, I think, really lost focus on its core community and really started focusing a little too much on phones and not enough on core electronics, maker, STEM, just really being in front of sort of the electronics adoption curve. So that sort of compounded itself in February of 2015, Radio Shack filed for bankruptcy. At the time, it had 4,100 stores. In April of 2015, Radio Shack came out of bankruptcy, so it emerged. The bankruptcy stayed behind, and we have 1,700 stores. And really, we spent the first year refixing the supply chain, rebuilding the supply chain, and kind of refocusing back on the consumer electronics, on the soul of RadioShack. And Dene joined us in May of 2016. He's now the steward of the brand, and
You've been there for 3 months.
3 months.
So welcome aboard.
Thank you.
So
and so it's I'll let Dene. Dene. I mean, what's the first 3 months been?
Oh, boy.
It's been hectic, but good. As you were saying, Lamore, C. Scott was talking about going to RadioShack sometimes, at least once a week, but sometimes on a daily basis. And so we have gotten back into parts, and more recently we're going to be launching an endless aisle offering of parts online.
Okay, what's endless aisle? Because I know this concept.
Endless aisle.
Yeah, well, I know because you're tied to the online world. The physical space doesn't matter as much.
That's right.
So do they have to put on virtual reality goggles?
It's like endless pancakes at IHOP or something.
What is this endless aisle?
Endless aisle meaning that you've got lots and lots of SKUs. In other words, the traditional retail aisle has gotten sort of endless in terms of the length of that aisle, so you can put more and more SKUs on and provide a broader product base to your customer online than what you ever could fitting it physically in a store.
So would they start in a store and they'd work with someone there, say, hey, I'm thinking of this, and they're purchasing things at the store and or online all at the same time?
They could do, for sure. Yeah, so we've got the maker parts in store in drawers, and we've got a little bit less than 1,000 SKUs there, and then this will expand it by more than 7-fold online.
Gotcha.
Wow.
Think about, as we've talked about, old RadioShack was you've got questions, we've got answers, and so you can come in a store and our 7,000 plus employees who very knowledgeable about both the 1,000 that are in the drawer, but everything that extends from the drawer. You can come and ask them, and they can help you. We're trying to be a full surface consultative sale.
Gotcha. So when you go in the RadioShack, because that's the RadioShack people know, they should expect that people are going to help them.
Yeah.
And the idea of when you say you're rolling out like the endless aisle, like what does that mean from the experience that people used to have at RadioShack to what's going to be happening going forward?
Yeah, it means that the product universe has expanded dramatically, because traditionally it was limited to how much square footage you had in your store. Now it'll be limited only by what makes sense to put online and make available to a customer.
Gotcha.
Could you do something like, you would look online and order it and it would pick it up in the store, or to be an online only sale?
You could pick it up in the store, yeah.
Okay.
People love that. They're like, I want to go there, I want to see it, and they want to make sure it's the right. Especially with electronics, it's like you can tell by looking at it, but sometimes it's hard online to know what it is. Like, how big is that motor? Like, it's even if you have like a ruler, it's hard to visualize until you're like, that's the right size motor.
Last year of this time to now, what has been the biggest changes? Sorry, Bobby. What's been?
Well, I would say throughout the past 5 years, RadioShack's supply chain really kind of weakened. So I think the past year has really been about figuring out what we wanted to have in the stores, finding the right partners to put those things in the store. That's sort of why we're here. Are you guys going to partner with us to get stuff into the stores?
We want to live in a world with RadioShacks. That's why we were, so like morbidly curious. like wow, you're back.
Yeah, well,
when we saw you at the White House, we're like, you're back. That's cool.
We are back. The past few years have been hard on both the RadioShack employees, but also the RadioShack community. But now, the stores are stocked. We've got good products coming in. Hopefully, we're going to grab your products and push it out to more customers. And and we've spent the past year really curating. I mean, if you went into a store in April of 15, we didn't have 2032 batteries. The parts store was half full. Like, now the parts store is full, and just getting that stuff back in the store where it's it's not easy to go find somebody who's going to sell you 4,000 resistors. Like we have spent the past year, but now our customers should feel confident that when they walk in the store, what they're coming in for is there. A year ago, that just didn't exist.
Yeah, that's what I think this question was getting at, is like, if people start to resume their habit of going to RadioShack, are they gonna? Because you hear something in the news, and I think once people know it's okay, then they'll start going on a regular basis.
Yeah, as Bobby said, out of stocks, but then we shrank the store base from 4,100 down to 1,700. So a lot of people saw RadioShack stores closing and assumed that we were out of business permanently.
Yeah. And y'all are like the fixers. It sounds like you're going in, you're seeing what was working,
Yeah.
and then going in and just like fixing lots of things. So that has been
Yeah.
that's the last year, like for you, Bobby, and then you just kind of
Yeah,
coming on.
more recently.
I mean, the most important thing for the past year is making sure this stuff's on the shelves.
Okay.
You can't sell something that's not on the shelf. And 2032 batteries, which is an important product to us, important product to the maker community, was, I mean, we went through months where they weren't there.
Yeah.
And so now it's without question. But that whole supply chain is very difficult to rebuild, and we rebuilt it, and now the focus is on the excitement and the new and what you're going to use that 2032 battery for.
Gotcha. Okay, well, you've heard it here. If you start going back to RadioShack, the stuff that used to go there for, if you stopped going last year, is probably there now.
It is.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so these are tough questions. Was there a reason for RadioShack to exist in an Amazon world? You want to take this one?
Yes, definitely.
All right.
Yeah.
Coming out swinging here. This is, whew.
Yeah,
Look,
yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
our readership,
People don't even say
viewership is
the
intense.
500-pound gorilla anymore. They say the Amazon. They say the Amazon.com of the world. Yeah. So.
Well, we say the 800-pound drunk gorilla.
Okay.
That's the difference. I think that Amazon will ultimately significantly harm any retailer that is reselling other people's products only and not adding value.
Gotcha.
As Bobby said, RadioShack was known for providing expert or consultative selling. That's something Amazon can't do. And so, Lamore gave the example of that motor that you need to take a look at, and then you may need some help. You may realize you're missing a couple of
Is it
components.
an AC motor, DC motor? I don't which one can I use for my drone?
Yeah.
Can you
Yeah.
even contact anyone on Amazon? I don't think you can.
No,
Right?
there's
No.
no contact.
No.
And Amazon's a good place to learn about products, and
Yeah.
they're
They don't
we
do a
sell-
QA service or anything.
No.
we sell some of their products in our stores, and we like working with them. But at the end of the day, there's still the maker who's in the middle of the project, and they need that
That's right.
button
Yeah.
battery that day. There is a world where both can coexist, where brick and mortar is we're there for people to come in and touch and feel, and that's important still.
Yeah.
Electronics, as a demand for it grows and everybody, electronics touches more and more, you're going to want, sometimes just to touch it. Sometimes, there are certain things that Amazon would be good for, but we think we can still provide that consultative and hands-on
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And one of the things, Jet.com got really popular. So being second place behind Amazon ain't a bad place to be in either. That's still a pretty good place to be. So in an Amazon world with RadioShack, do you see the site changing, like RadioShack.com, on what it does and what it serves? Is it going to be more of a way to know what's in the store? Like, where do you see the .com site in this Amazon world?
There are retailers that have not only survived Amazon but flourished working with Amazon, but working
We're one of them too.
independently.
They sell. People sell our stuff on Amazon.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it works for them.
Yeah, so we met last week with a German retailer that's got 750,000 SKUs online. And a lot of
Wow.
those online orders occur within a store. And they've learned how to use the Amazon ecosystem to their own benefit, as well as operate independently of them. And so, I think that the reality is Amazon's here to stay. They are the really large gorilla. And the reality is also that you can flourish even with them, but standing in their way and trying to execute on a business model that is prime time Amazon target.
Yeah.
That's that we've seen the effect of that with retailers.
I mean,
going
there's certain products that I think you may have found in a RadioShack 10 years ago that we're not going to sell because Amazon,
Yeah.
mass market TVs, for example, you're not
Yeah.
going to find those.
Why compete? Yeah.
Why compete? And so but at the end of the day, batteries, maker, soldering things that people want to look at the 3 different boxes on the shelf. And here's the thing is
Like there's
in our-
3 RC cars until you look at it and you
Yeah.
feel it. You don't
Yeah.
know how the RC car quality is. That's the thing with Amazon. You don't know what you're getting
Right.
until you
And
get
you can
it.
come into our store and open a box and say, is this what I'm looking to get? And you can try on headphones in our stores and and so there's a world where there's certain products where 55-inch TV we're never going to be able to sell and compete with Amazon, but there are certain things that just our store people still want to touch.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good example. So for the fourth quarter, we've got a lot of drones that we're selling from really low price points to medium price points. And so we're differentiating ourselves by selling crash packs. In fact, we'll probably give them away. So you buy a drone, you get the crash pack, because pretty much everyone crashes the drone.
Yeah.
But then the other thing that we'll do, to Lemoore's point, is we'll offer drone classes in store. So, you know, even if it's the parent that's coming in, they can fly the drone and learn how to use it, so that when they give it as a gift, you know, people aren't getting concussion from a drone on.
But flying blenders are great.
I remember, I guess I should do some disclosure. RadioShack hasn't paid us anything, they haven't bought anything yet. This is just, we wanted you on the show. Anyways, the other thing is, a million years ago, I worked for an advertising agency that worked with RadioShack, and I remember doing research when I think it was like peak lots of stores, but I remember even probably now, there seems to be a RadioShack in driving distance and close to almost everyone. Is that what's the ratio now? Because before it was like within 20 minutes of every American there's a RadioShack.
It's still very
There's a RadioShack within 10 miles of 95% of the population.
Okay.
Wow.
So I think
you got range.
Yeah, we're still. I mean, there are 1,700 stores, is a lot of stores.
Yeah.
And so
So you can do classes, and you could record them and do, and get the word out and do more. So
I mean, we are doing classes. I mean, it's picking up. The first year out has been sort of a rebirth, but we didn't want to have classes. Somebody come in and learn to make a kit or build a drone,
and then they can't buy it.
They can't buy it, or we don't have the parts for it. And so the crash pack is like something Dean brought in that's super exciting, and so it's people aren't going to come in and be like, oh, I don't want to buy the drone because it might break. Now it's like
if it breaks, you got.
We used to sell the Solo when it first came out.
Yeah.
So Chris Anderson was the editor-in-chief at Wired, and he had seen one of Lemoore's presentations about making a kit company. And so he stopped being an editor-in-chief at a magazine and then started DIY drones. And we were early on one of the people that bought their first versions, and so a customer bought one, and they opened it in the box, and it just flew away.
Oh, no.
And it never came back. And that was the end of their drone, 800, and it went into the ocean.
Oh, you're kidding.
That was it. And they're like, what do I want a refund. And we're like, we have all these warnings, like if you flew into the ocean, I don't know what we can do. So we worked something out with them, but that was a drone-like experience, or it crashes right away. And drones they should be sold after a class.
Yeah.
It seems like it's a smart thing to do, so that's cool.
You also have to sell a lot of batteries, because especially the micro drones, you only fly them for about a minute and a half, and then
this
it's
is
like
every drone, and I've heard
our micro drone flies 5 minutes.
Okay, 5
and
minutes.
rechargeable.
That's
so.
a
yeah, but
Which-
then you have to charge it for an hour.
Then you have to charge it.
See?
So
Right.
speaking of, so these questions are flowing into each other. What have you been doing to connect with DIY makers?
So we've been, as Bobby said, we've been starting up our learn how to solder classes at various maker fairs throughout the country, and we're attending
the DC one.
DC one, Kansas City, Detroit, and then early October 1 and 2, there's a large one in New York City.
Yep.
So we'll be there. We'll be doing more than just learning how to solder. It'll be build your own drone. So we've got a small kit, which we showed you before.
Yeah, super cute.
And we're also looking to do something pretty exciting with Nick Cannon.
Yeah, we met him at the White House.
Yeah.
So he's doing a lot of music-related stuff, it looks like.
That's right.
And I remember his story is he got into music because of going to
That's
RadioShack.
right. His grandfather left him his speakers when he passed away, and he wanted to figure out how to make them work again. He went down to the RadioShack store, and over a couple of weeks with the RadioShack manager, he got the speakers working again. That's what got him into the music and the DJ world. Yeah.
And for the maker fairs that you're doing, offhand, do you know how many people are soldering? I remember it was packed.
In DC and Kansas City, we did about 2,000 kits each. So we felt strong. We have about 8 to 12 of our store employees who
from the local areas.
From the local areas
Okay.
who come out.
Right.
They come out on their time, and it's super exciting. I think New York. The kits that we're bringing to New York are a little bit more complicated.
Yeah.
They're
Well, we're New Yorkers, so like.
We like it complicated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it has to be loud and complicated.
Well, they're also like drones, so we
Angry.
can only fly so many at a certain time. I mean,
Yeah.
people are definitely going to get knocked out at the New York
Yeah.
Maker Faire from like
Yeah.
these random RadioShack drones.
Yeah, they're
And so,
cute.
it's a few thousand. I mean, we've had probably 20 classes at our stores kind of over the past few months on a Sunday. Manager takes time, teaches 8, 10 people. So the word's
It's a
getting
good
out.
kit. I like it. Yeah, it's like you solder on the motors and you assemble it, but the RF part's done for you, so it doesn't it's within compliance. But then like you have the fun part of like you're building it,
Yeah.
but not
Yeah.
from the very very beginning of
Yes.
transistors. So
Yeah.
I think that's one of the neat things about technology. It's like we're still doing the same skills. But instead of like, I made an AM crystal radio, I can
Yeah, yeah.
barely hear something maybe, it's like I made a flying robot.
Yeah, yeah.
It's cool.
Okay. Are you both going to be at Maker Faire?
Yeah.
Okay. And is it going to be from the New York stores where you pull the staff from as well? Or is it going to be folks that...
From the New York stores. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
So if someone wanted to cheer on some of the folks that'll be there, if you're at a local Radio Shack in New York,
Yeah.
just say, I'll see you at Maker
I'll,
Faire.
Yeah.
I'll race you. We'll have a drone race there.
Yeah. All right. Okay. More hard-hitting questions here. What maker-related items will be available in Radio Shack stores? All right, people want to know.
Yeah, so one of the areas that we're regenerating is the maker, and so we're bringing in mostly at this point branded product, but we have developed about 20 kits, lower price kits, which would be great gift-giving items, especially for the holiday period. And so we'll have those set up in store, literally for the first time. We'll have a dedicated maker area in the
Cool.
store.
I think Brandon showed them in the Maker Faire video, some of the
Yeah,
kits.
yeah.
So on magazine.com from, I think, at least the DC Maker Faire, he showed
Yeah.
some of the electronic kits. Do you remember offhand like which kits they're?
So there's a lot. I mean, there's a theremin kit. So it's make your own theremin. I mean,
Gotcha.
it's a blister pack. It's $20. It's you get a 9-volt battery. You have to solder on the leads, and then
Yeah, Radio Shack has had
it's-
ones like
yeah.
this
I
in
mean,
the past.
it's.
Yeah,
I mean, there's that. There's a true or false test. There's a magic 8-ball test. There's pressure. I mean, there's all these kind of just think about just like
Gotcha.
simple tasks, and they're 20 to 30 minute build
Yeah.
kits, but they're very educational and they're very fun, and they're just across the board like any kind of kit you want to make.
Okay. And I'd say that's what a lot of people remember some of the Radio Shack kits being. Like you get a theremin kit or something like that. So okay. Next up, is Radio Shack considered?
Yes, we have, and we are.
Okay. So you got drones.
Drones
What
as
other
well
ones are
as
you
learn
thinking
to
about?
solder.
Learn to solder,
We've been
okay.
studying those up. That's probably about as far as we've gotten so far. But we see conducting events outside the store as well as in the store as something that we want to do, yeah.
Okay. If there was unlimited budget and time and instructors, more on a personal note, which ones would you like to see taught? Bobby, which ones would you like to see, Dean?
I mean, I think the learn to solder is awesome.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's something that like when I sat at sort of the DC fair and you just watched like this 12-year-old kid like
Yeah.
solder a pin together, and the second that they connected the battery, like it started blinking. It's amazing how how simple but complex soldering is at the same time, and that's sort of like
Welding,
this.
it's sewing,
Well, it's just
yeah, it's everything.
it's like it's the basics of how electronic circuitry works, and so you can just learn how to do it and like what that can lead into. And so in these classes they're not 6-hour, 8-hour like multi-level classes. Like you come in and literally in 30 minutes to an hour we can teach you how to like solder like the basics of electronics right there.
Gotcha. Do you know no budget? Any instructor in the world? Anything?
Yeah, well, I guess we're talking this afternoon. I'm a big believer in STEM education and people actually enjoying learning these subjects versus I think right now the vast majority of students don't enjoy them. And I think it's, as we know, it's the employment future of first world countries like the US.
Okay.
I
All right.
also need to surf sometime soon.
Surf.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Surfing.
surf class.
Surf.
There was a really cool project, NeoPixels, and they made their own fiberglass surfboard, and it was like they were glowing and they were surfing at night. It was really cool looking. It was actually, it turned into an advertising campaign afterwards, I think, right?
Yeah.
I don't remember. It was really cool looking though.
On a long enough timeline, marketers ruin everything.
You can say that because you're a marketer.
I can say that because I was a marketer. So next up, here's a question, and we didn't ask anyone to ask this question. What Adafruit products will you carry?
We ask you which
Yeah.
Adafruit, you know.
Well, you know what? I'll leave
tell
it up
us
to
which
the,
ones.
I'll leave it up to the community here.
Yeah.
So one of the cool things is we broadcast on a bunch of different networks. The chat room in Twitch. I'll send you the text.
Yeah.
And everyone,
Yeah, yeah.
whatever you think you would go to the store, and you have to promise to go to the store and pick it up, because the Adafruit stuff should almost always be out of stock because it's getting purchased so
Yes.
much. So put in the chat what you would like to see in the stores. Our thoughts and opinions is, of course, the things that get people started in electronics
Yeah.
the easiest possible way. And shipping batteries is hard. And I kind of like the idea of lots of things that use batteries
Yeah.
from Adafruit in the Radio
Yeah.
Shack stores, because that means people will go there and they can get all the batteries they need, they can get all the different pieces,
Yeah.
and anything like really big. So getting back to this Amazon thing that you were talking about, so the money comes from somewhere, and free shipping, it does come from somewhere. So the world went to dimensional shipping,
Yeah.
and then you have batteries. So anything that's big and bulky, that's a battery, that'd be great to see at Radio Shack. And
Like
all-
li-poly batteries, you can't get,
Yeah.
they're so
Yeah.
hard to
so
get.
for us, things that teach.
And we make great li-poly chargers. They're like the most popular ones, and boosters and stuff.
Yeah.
Things that teach and educate. So in the chat room, they're saying Circuit Playground, ESP, 8266.0, like Internet of Things stuff. Trinkets, Feather Huzzah, more Internet of Things. So looks like some of the things that we have are low-cost Internet of Things, and this audience and this community does wake up one day and say, I really want to just that right there. And same day wouldn't even accomplish
Yeah.
that. They want to.
Yeah,
they
yeah.
want same hour.
Yeah, yeah.
So that might be
Yes.
stuff to think about.
But you're
So-
gonna. I mean, there's some. Circuit Playground looks awesome. You guys are. It sounds like you guys are going to be able to help us get Arduino back in the store,
Yeah.
and back in stock.
Yeah.
And to a point where at price points that I think people still want to buy. Like, there's multiple Arduinos now out there, and you guys
Yeah.
are going to help make sure that in Radio Shack is like the right ones for our customers, which is
Gotta be
really
legit.
exciting.
Yeah.
It's gotta be
Yeah,
legit.
It's where the support is. I
They're,
mean, like
they're
if
also
you
made
want-
in USA now, and they're the real Arduinos
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and all that good stuff. So,
So we're excited. We're excited for that. I think more learning kits. Circuit Playground. We want to be able to make sure that that's out there because that looks great.
Yeah, kids, it's low cost. Kid walks in with $20, they can start off with their journey to electronics. One
they
of the,
want radios, metros, batteries, boosters.
Yeah.
So yeah, like this sounds like
Yeah,
our
yeah.
most popular sellers.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
too surprising.
So,
Yeah.
But
yeah.
what boosters do you
Like
guys sell?
little li-poly. So the thing is, you have a li-poly battery, but almost all electronics that makers use 5-volt battery,
yeah.
like 5 volts.
Yeah.
And so that's why they usually have 4 AA batteries. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's how they do it. So if you have a li-poly battery, which everyone loves because they're rechargeable, they're light, you need a little boost converter, a little thing
Yeah.
that converts that from 3 to 5.
Five, yeah.
So we call it Power Boost, and it's very popular. And it has a built-in recharger. So you can make your own like iPhone charger, or you can charge
Yeah.
your project, make
Yeah,
it
yeah.
portable, and then you plug in USB and
Yeah,
it
yeah,
recharges
yeah.
it as well. So it's a
Yeah.
little power pack.
Yeah.
Like RadioShack, powering your project.
So
Yeah.
I'll send this to you. This is interesting. I don't know if anyone's done a real live focus group at this. Like, this is neat. Anyways,
Yeah, it is.
someone will do a marketing study on this one day,
Really
but
good.
I'll just send you this text,
Yeah,
and you can go
thank
through
you.
there. What I think will happen is it'll match up with some of the top sellers.
Yeah.
The Perma Protos that we do, they allow you to solder together a board very quickly.
Yeah.
Kind of a rapid prototype that's frozen after that. So it's like
They're
a breadboard.
inspired from the original RadioShack breadboards, which were like
Yeah.
amazing. The Archer
Right.
ones.
Right.
I don't even know if you
That'd
guys
be
carry
fun
them
one to
anymore.
do.
They were great, but the problem is the quality was.
Not
They were
so
good for
good.
prototyping, and you could cut them, but they weren't good for really rugged.
Yeah, yeah.
So we made a version that's like really cool, hardcore, and it's like double-sided and gold pads
right.
for like, when you need like intense prototyping.
Okay.
Right.
Someone said daily tutorials, which is interesting because that's a digital good. So maybe we could have them on a screen or something like that. Okay.
Okay.
All right, these are all good. All right.
Thanks, focus group.
Yeah, thank you. What do you get normally in a focus group, like an Amazon gift certificate? Not this time.
But you get our company.
You get a discount code tonight. The code is RadioShack, 10% off Native for Store all the way up to 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. You like that segue? That's nice.
Very good.
Okay. RadioShack STEM efforts. What are RadioShack's goals for STEM education?
Yeah, we see this as a great expression of a lot of things that we've done for years. So we've had what could be called STEM kits for decades.
Yeah.
And we have had a focus on schools in the past. So what we're looking to do, as we're talking this afternoon, is is work with schools and look to provide all of their STEM needs, which might range from having a STEM night to get students interested in electing to take STEM subjects, through to kits that actually help teachers on a week-to-week basis better teach the classes that they're teaching in the schools. So those would be affordable kits which sort of line up with the curriculum and enable the teacher to provide a more creative, a more interesting, a more tactile learning experience than what's currently being provided. So that for us is, it's a great way to be relevant as a retailer and do so good and to be involved in something. It's, we think, a very good commercial opportunity as well.
Good cause, good business. And one of the things that we were talking about earlier is there's really great teachers that know about things like Adafruit, but on the local level sometimes they don't, and they might not be able to or be comfortable ordering online, or maybe the school district can't do it that way. So that's a really interesting idea where the RadioShacks become that hub.
Yeah.
So that's pretty neat. Next up, how can RadioShack help kids interested in STEAM subjects? Probably this similar answer, but how can you help the kids? Sounds like that was for adults, but how can kids get?
I think we do already. So it's not unusual to be in a store and you'll see a parent and a student come in and they've clearly been given a project by a teacher and they've come into RadioShack. And my first experience of that was in Austin when some students came in with parents and they were all looking to buy the same parts to make a speaker, and clearly it was a year 11 project and the kids are all coming into the RadioShack store. So I think we do today, but I don't think it's well organised. It's not coordinated with the schools, and that's where I think we can add a lot of value.
Okay, Bobby, any goals for STEM and STEAM education?
I mean, it's continued to be a push. It's continued to be a growth. You know, we think that the basics are there in the store, but we need, we're here because we think the stuff you guys do is awesome. I think it's congruent with what we do. You know, there's a world, that we grow together and where it's, we've got these, basic blister pack make it kits, and then, and then they grow into the Adafruit website and all the 3,000 projects you guys have. And that's I think the balance that we're trying to build. The stuff we're doing with Nick Cannon is pretty exciting, and that's more on the STEAM side. And so very focused on music and lights and lighting, which we think is a little bit farther away for us, but it's definitely something that we're looking to develop kind of over the next 6 to 12 months, where people can design their own lighting projects and that dances to the music and things like that.
That's where there's been some significant milestones for Adafruit, and one of them was like NeoPixels. So easily being able to make your own light show.
Right.
And it seems like the way that we've found to get young people interested in things is kind of trick them. So we did a Pokemon project. You saw that on our show and tell. And we also did a kit, and it's still one of our top sellers, a TV Be Gone kit. It turns off TVs. And kids love mischief. And so we try to approach it like, is there a pop culture way to bring the idea of learning to young people? And sometimes they have to feel like they're getting away with something.
Yeah, it's like you're cheating a Pokemon, but if you learned Linux and Python and how to boot up a Raspberry Pi and you soldered 3 LEDs on, that's worth it. I think you get to cheat because you've learned these skills.
Yeah.
All right. So next up, this holiday season, which is, do you have a big countdown? Because every retailer is X number of days.
Yeah, X number of days to Black Friday, and then to
what's
December
the big
25th.
What's going to be available at RadioShack this holiday?
So I think 3 things I'll just touch on. One is that maker presentation for the first time, pulling a lot of new products together in a centralized place in the store. The other one is to become the drone sort of destination. People wanting to buy drones, from low-priced ones right up to medium-priced ones, and as I say, with crash packs as well as in-store classes. And then the third area would be in audio, which we see as a really good gift-giving area, and consistent with what we're just talking about, which is developing this music maker idea where people are making music themselves using, unmixing music and remixing it and being creative. And so we're bringing in about 10 new products in the Incredibles line, which is the Nick Cannon line, as well as some, including some children's headsets, and they compete extremely well with the much higher priced Beats at $299, and the Bose items around that level as well. So they're $129 for the adults, and I think $69 for the children's, and very good quality, get very good speaker drivers. The ear cups are well designed, they're not round, they're oval shaped, so they keep a lot of extraneous noise out. And then the battery life is very long compared to these so-called premium brands. So we think we've got a pretty good category developing in the music audio realm.
Yeah, and to be fair, like the price of Beats is always considered a little high. You're not really, like, they're kind of all made, we're all pretty good at this now.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
There's not a lot going on with speaker drivers. We kind of invented those in the 50s.
Yeah.
We had the plastics. We added plastics, but.
And so when we bought the company, when we bought the RadioShack name, came with it all this IP that, first of all, we have a giant warehouse.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you
that's
about
got,
that later. Yeah.
I mean, we have more Tandy, computers than but we also got something.
That's the prize for today. Is
Warehouse full of
TR-80.
We have every RadioShack catalog
Bill
ever.
Gates.
Yeah, that's cool.
Which is amazing. But we also acquired the Realistic brand. And have you guys watched Stranger Things yet on Netflix?
We haven't, but
everyone keeps saying we need to watch.
But we
this.
did a project with Colin, which is an awesome pseudo-random, where he had an old realistic, what's it called? The thing that we do with Colin, the color organ.
Yeah.
He had a color organ,
in the 70s.
and then his friend had a color organ too, and like they're like really beautiful. So we might make a little kit to make a pocket color organ, like a little desktop one, because like that was the thing. Everyone had. You should totally grab one out of that warehouse.
Realistic's coming back.
Yeah.
So we have Realistic coming back. We've got Tandy coming back. We've got these brands.
Tandy Pie.
Tandy
Yeah.
Pie.
Tandy Raspberry Pi. Yeah.
Yeah, I have I'll do one slide here. So not a lot of people know that Asimov did an ad with RadioShack. I mean, this is an old ad that's probably in one of your warehouse spaces. He did an ad for a computer.
Yeah.
So this is from the archives.
And we've got plenty of those sitting around. We got.
Yeah. So
Those are neat.
just one thing on the drones. You said with drones you're doing entry level to mid level.
Yeah.
So you're not going to do the high end crazy $3,000 or $10,000 ones. You're sticking to a lower price point.
Yeah, low price points,
Gotcha.
affordable. Yeah.
I think that's smart. In New York, if you ever venture over to Brooklyn, there is a drone store that opened up that caters to the high-end market. And one of the cool things they did is there's either the canvases that are just printed photographs that you can get online. You send them a photo and they print a canvas. And then there's screens behind them and it shows the footage that you get off of it. And I think that's kind of a neat way to present drones because you can't necessarily fly them there, but you can see the footage. So maybe in the stores,
Brooklyn
that could be a
drones.
way to...
Yeah.
Brooklyn drones. We have a post about it on our blog. So next up.
Artisanal drones.
Yeah.
Okay.
RadioShack's innovation efforts. Is RadioShack working on new product innovation?
I mean, every day.
Every day?
Yeah.
I mean, we've got team in Asia, we've got team in Fort Worth. It's product innovation is and it's in our blood. But there's also things that we think that there's just people that are better at it than we could ever be, which is particularly you guys. And so we're excited about partnering with particularly on the maker movement where the innovation you guys have had is will be complementary to everything we have in store.
Yeah.
So
We don't want to run retail stores, and you probably don't want to run an electronic company with 3,000 individually supported code tutorial videos. I mean, maybe you do, but
yeah, our coding skills have gone down.
focus on the thing you're good at.
Yeah.
So.
But I mean, we're innovating in audio. I mean, as Dean said, we're innovating in drones. We're innovating in sort of accessories. There's new phones coming out, so you always have to innovate around that. So there's still plenty of innovation going on.
Okay. And more questions. We'll speed round these since we have about 9 minutes left. What could makers do to better support places like RadioShack where they do want to see them succeed? What can they do?
I think, come in and support us with your business, and if we can't meet your expectations, pass on what what you want from us, what we're missing in store that you would buy. Any feedback about store's performance and how we can improve the staffing, the training is always very valuable to us.
Okay.
So it's just coming in and checking us out and giving us their feedback.
Okay. Are you planning any custom hardware? Kind of answered that. You got some stuff coming?
Custom projects, but custom
projects.
hardware we leave to the engineers.
Okay. What are the practical realities of operating a brick and mortar store in the age of online shopping? So, similar question as previous asked, but I guess you were in retail,
Yeah.
Target and
Yeah.
Sears Canada. What are the realities that people don't even think of when it's like you're running a retail group or establishment?
Yeah, it's keeping the team inspired and energized, and so let's say for the holiday period, you've got a lot of people who are earning, very modest incomes, and quite often they're working 6, maybe even 7 days a week for weeks on end. So they've got to believe in what they're doing. They've got to enjoy what they're doing. They've got to have the endurance for maybe 8 weeks, and during those 8 weeks, perhaps they can't take any vacation at all. So, and that's the grand final. That's the Super Bowl of retail. Is that 8-week period? So keeping them
motivated.
inspired is one of many.
Yeah. Do you have anything that you've learned in your years of running retail organizations that's been helpful?
I think actually I think I'm not just saying that, but I think these live sessions where the stores can comment on the products that we've developed and that we plan to sell. They can comment, and we did one actually yesterday with a whole bunch of people coming in from stores looking at some of the products that we're planning for the fourth quarter, and we're asking them the question, is this best-in-class product? And so maybe the person who bought it, the merchant, might say, here's this product, I think it's great, and then often the stores would come back and say, no, the JDL headset has got this and this headset doesn't, and we'd be able to talk about, is it really best in class? Because we want to focus on creating product that's best in class. So that was a good example where it's a very, everyone's equal, all comments are, as long as they're well informed, then they're welcomed. And so I think it's that interactivity, and I think webinars and all kinds of live interactions enable that significantly. And so it's not sort of top-down retailing, it's it's probably the other way around, where people in the stores who are very intelligent, very knowledgeable about products, interacting with customers, can provide tremendous value to the rest of us.
They're your boss.
Yeah. No, they are. I mean, old RadioShack, was this company where it all sat in the center of Fort Worth products, and Dene comes in that. I mean, that was as long as I've seen and before, and everyone you talk to in headquarters says that they've never really asked the stores for their opinion. Dene comes in, goes visit a store, and literally in 30 minutes, this manager who's unbelievably knowledgeable has changed 3 products that sales have lifted the second that we've.
He's been waiting to tell someone.
He's been waiting to tell someone, and I mean, and these are these are basic things, but it's just sometimes the maker or the manufacturer doesn't. You can't get all the way to the customer level, and the customer the customer and the manager in the store realizes that an RC car needs to have it doesn't work if it's not line of sight, which might not work for all RC cars, and so you have to fix that. And Dene is that has changed just the opinion across the whole system very quickly, where everybody in the field feels like they can push an opinion and it will actually make a difference, because it does.
That's good. And in your experience, because you've had a life, what are the retail challenges? What are the things that people don't even expect when they have to? I
mean, the hardest part about retail today is serving a purpose, right? And so, you have to, you can't just be another store that sells something that you can get down the street. You have to, and so, we've looked for retailers that serve a purpose, and RadioShack serves a purpose, is that it's a place where people can come to ask questions and learn about what they're using, and those retailers will survive. I think other retailers that is just another shirt on a hanger is
so find a cause
in
in addition to having a good business. Okay. And then one of the things that you said reminded me of back in the day working with Sony. There was a time, this is before Apple kind of became new Sony in a lot of ways, but there was a time when if you went to a store, if you had only $20 and you bought something from Sony, it was the best possible at that price point.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's one of the things I think RadioShack has done and still could do, where whatever the price point you're coming in at.
The best $20 drone, the best $50 drone, the best
you can't
$200
afford
drone.
a $200 pair of headphones, but if you have $20, here's the best $20 one. And I think
That was
that's
so true, yeah.
yeah, whatever, if it had the Sony name on it and it was $20, it was the best possible at that price point.
Yeah.
So maybe that's something
Yes.
that,
exactly.
like the curation, I think, is helpful. Okay. So a couple other questions as we wind down here. This one came in. Do you know about archive.org and the online service, the folks who will scan in old things, old CDs? They have a whole collection of AOL software. It's Brewster Kahle, and this has been going on for a while, the Wayback Machine.
Yep.
Would you be willing to maybe entertain the idea of someone scanning in some of those old catalogs from the past so it gets digitized and put out?
Absolutely. And I
That'd
mean,
be
you'd be,
That'd be cool.
I mean, we literally, RadioShack put out a catalog that
Yeah.
was like, that was the Endless Aisle like 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Was the RadioShack catalog, and we have every single one.
Gotcha.
Like, I mean, happy to entertain you guys down there. Happy to send these catalogs to somebody.
Yeah, there's a
We've got all the
person-
comics. We've got
This
everything.
is great. So there's a person, his name is Jason Scott, and he goes around the world basically, or his stuff is sent to him. It gets scanned, and then it's up available for everyone for all time.
Right.
I'll do an introduction. Maybe it'll
Yeah.
maybe it'll work out.
That'd be-
Jason,
That'd be cool.
he has saved some people's lives, so I feel like this is a nice thing to offer up. He's
Yeah,
a collector,
yeah.
and it's if you've ever used a Wayback Machine or archive.org, it is the collection of kind of humankind.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
And those catalogs are so cool because it's like
Yeah.
it's bringing back the past, but it's also inspirational. It's like, electronics hasn't changed that much. So how did they? How were they teaching people electronics? How did they inspire that generation? What can we learn from that to create the new version? I remember, I think SparkFun made. They started selling little springs that were in the 501 kits. Little springs that people would use to connect, and so they were like, "Is this? This was a technique that people used to teach electronics pre-soldering. Are these springs like? Should they be brought back, or should we stick to? It's like it's interesting to look at what we used to do, and then maybe develop kits with those old techniques.
Yeah.
Okay. There was also a request if there's any software or hardware that you can put on GitHub, github.com/RadioShack, which is starting to become the collection of humans' efforts to do computing and more. We put all of our code in hardware, maybe for some of the open source stuff that y'all are doing. That was a request.
We were surprised. Like, so RadioShack did have a software development company for 30 years, and when we acquired the stores and then bought the IP, we also got all the software, which we've been told we have all these patents that we don't even.
Yeah, what is
I
that?
mean, if they're even relevant anymore, who knows?
You need
We're
like a
happy to
RadioShack historian to go in and do
that's
like
right.
a thing like here's the history of what we've done. Okay, and then let's see, other questions came in. Would you consider turning RadioShacks into makerspaces? Yeah, I mean you kind of are. In some ways.
Yeah.
We are.
Yeah.
I mean that's happening.
Could you see having like laser cutters and other mills and like equipment? Like, is that something that you consider?
With the school board that we're talking to last week, they were saying maybe you guys could own a 3D printer. We'll email files to you. You make product and
like Kinko's or whatever turned into FedEx.
Yeah.
Something.
But then it's like, oh, the kids are making a speaker. They'd send you the enclosure and you'd print that out, but then they would pick out the speaker and the coil and the wire.
Yeah.
So it'd be a service where you'd send the files off and go to your local 3D printer, which happens to be at RadioShack.
Yeah.
They're probably going to pick up something while they're there. So now you have.
We had a UPS store with a 3D printer in it near our house. It was a little bit odd. I don't know. Like we had just moved, but it was interesting. It was like the guy who ran it was like, because they were independently owned. Each store is owned by the owner as a franchise, and he was like, "Yeah, I got this gigantic 3D printer, and he was 3D printing as a service. That's cool."
Okay.
I mean, you'll see next year, maybe even at the end of this year, a lot more music-oriented sort of in-store experiences, and so it's to come.
Yeah, synthesizers and kits and stuff.
All right. Well, that's the show. Okay. We could talk for hours.
Are there any questions that you want us to ask?
Is there any Adafruit questions you have, or is there anything that we didn't ask or the community didn't ask? I mean, we got through all these.
So, I mean, what are the cool products that of
We
yours
should
that we
sell.
should be selling.
Yeah, the focus group that we did live
Yeah,
here, historic marketing focus group here. I think they hit it. I think a lot of Internet of Things. I think Circuit
I
Playground.
think an ESP Feather, which is like a huge
Yeah.
mega hit.
Yeah,
a very
yeah.
under $20 Internet of Things microcontroller, Circuit Playground, NeoPixels. It's interesting with the stuff they mentioned. It's not the accessories we sell. It's the original stuff that that we design in house. That is interesting because I think they realize like, oh, if Radio Shack was selling these things, I could just get all the cables and accessories and the alligator clips and the batteries and the all the extra things that I would.
Yeah.
Because we sell wire and alligator clips and batteries and I don't mind selling it. It's fine, but it's actually not really our business.
Yes,
It's only there, so it's like, okay, well, you'll have the battery
yeah.
pack, so it goes with the kit that we really
yeah.
sell.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, for folks who are curious, there's a maker sale going on RadioShack.com. I also explored the headphone area. These are some of the headphones. And then this was my first post that I did on Hackaday. The date was 2004, and this is when I started that site, and it was a Radio Shack tone dialer. And you were also a criminal as a youngster, and when Hackaday was having its anniversary, we still have it, and there's still like a
That's the
payphone.
new style. I had one of
Yeah.
the old style ones, but I don't know where it is anymore.
So
I really wish I hadn't thrown it out. I think I did.
a lot of
Shame.
people got their start. So thanks for taking care of this
Yeah.
thing, and we can all spend
Yeah.
our time on lots of different things.
Yeah.
So bringing the maker market and education and great electronics to
Try and
all
bring
these sorts.
payphones back.
We're gonna bring
6.5536 megahertz crystals.
Yeah. So thanks for working on that, and looking forward to visiting a Radio Shack soon and picking
Yeah.
up some
Yeah.
stuff.
Thank you.
So all right.
Well, thanks
Thank
for
you
having
very
us.
much. Yes.
Thanks, everyone.
It was great. Thank you.
Next week on the show, we'll give away some of the Radio Shack T-shirts in the chat room. So come back next week for that, folks. We got a pile of Radio Shack shirts.
Yay.
All right.
One of them fits me, but the rest of them can be given away.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks, Bobby. Thanks.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks so
Thanks,
much.
Bobby. Thanks,
All right.
Dan.
Don't forget,
Thanks for
Co's
watching,
Radio Shack.
everybody.
Thanks very much, everyone.
And we are required to show a picture of our cat. Long story.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
then here is your moment of Zener. This is Zener diode.